What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nest at Night, your go-to podcast for all things Southern Connecticut State University athletics. It's your host, Jalil Watson, and tonight we have a jam-packed episode focusing on recent developments within our men's and women's basketball teams, as well as significant news from our football team. We'll delve into the recent matchups against Assumption University from this past weekend, analyze the games, the highlights, and discuss the broader implications for our teams. Additionally, we'll explore the recent decision to part ways with our 11-year head coach, Tom Godek, and the ongoing national search for a new leader. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, let's dive straight into it. Today, we're going to be diving into SCSU's women's basketball and their recent tough loss against Assumption University. This was a game that really showed how quickly momentum can shift in basketball. We've got a lot to break down, from a strong start to struggles in the middle quarters, and how Assumption capitalized to take the win. So let's jump in. The first quarter was a strong start for SCSU. They came out firing, and a big part of that was nobody else than Delaney Haynes. She put up 8 of the team's 14 first quarter points, helping the Owls take an early 14-12 lead. Offensively, things looked good. Solid ball movement, aggressive drives, and confident shot making. The defense was doing enough to contain Assumption early, but as we soon see, things would start shifting in the next two quarters. The second and the third quarter is where it slipped away for the Owls. This is where things took a turn, and unfortunately for the Owls, they never truly fully recovered from it. In the second quarter, they were outscored 5-12, and in the third, it was 12-18. You can do the math. That's a 30-17 run in just two quarters, and losing that kind of a momentum can be tough to overcome. How did this happen? Well, first, Assumption's defense really clamped down. The Owls struggled to find good looks, and their shooting percentage took a very big hit. Secondly, turnovers became a major issue in this game. Giving up easy transition buckets took the energy out of the team and allowed Assumption to find their rhythm. By halftime, Kate Lynch and her squad lost the lead, and the Greyhounds kept the pressure on into the third quarter. Even though SCSU tried to respond, you can tell that the momentum completely shifted by this point. So you might ask yourself, what exactly happened? What changed between the first quarter to the middle two? Well, this was a game of contrast, down to the last time these two teams met, even. You see, earlier this season, Kate Lynch and the Owls dominated Assumption at home, 70-55. That game saw the squad shooting 22 from 55 from the field and nearly perfect from the free throw line, going 20 for 24. You see, they locked down Assumption's offense, holding them just 30% from the field and 20 from the three. But whoa, was it totally different this time. It was basically the exact opposite, right? You see, Molly Stokes and the Assumption's offense was just unstoppable. They shot 50% from the field and 65% from the three. Not only that, but like we said, turnovers was a big problem for the Owls. They scored 19 points off of turnovers. And when you're on the other side of that, that's a recipe for disaster. On the other hand, the Owls struggled to find any rhythm on offense this game. A lack of consistency really hurt them. And in a conference where margins are slim, every possession counts. So, what can we do to move on from this? All right. Now, let's look ahead. Let's learn some lessons and definitely make some adjustments. So, where does the team go from here? Despite this disappointing loss this past Saturday, Kate Lynch and her squad are still third in the conference. This means that they're in a strong position headed into the final stretch of the season, but they'll definitely need to adjust quickly if they want to make a deep postseason run. Here are some takeaways from the last couple of games. Let's limit the turnovers, especially looking at this game. Giving up 19 points off of turnovers alone, no matter who you're playing against, is game-changing. So I think that the Owls need to just focus on better ball control. Secondly, offensive consistency has kind of been lacking lately. When they're clicking and on all cylinders, they can dominate any team like they did earlier in the season. Finding this rhythm again, especially at this point in the season, is so crucial. Thirdly, let's up the ante on defense, right? Let's raise the intensity. The first matchup early in the year, we saw the Owls shutting down Assumption's offense. This time, it was the complete polar opposite. A return to defensive fundamentals would be key. With a few tweaks, this team is still very dangerous. The question is, can they bounce back and find that win form again just in time for the playoffs? Or will we see this trend continue and see an early exit for the Owls? And that really wraps up this segment on SCSU women's basketball tough loss this past weekend. But let's not forget, there's still plenty of lessons to take from it, right? Let us know your thoughts, and what do you think the Owls need to do to get back on track? You can even hit us up on social media with questions and whatever answers you come up with. But let's move on to men's basketball. This truly was a tale of two matchups with SCSU men's basketball this past weekend. Let's recap the first one. Let's back it up a bit back to January 5th, where the Owls hosted Assumption at James Warren Fieldhouse in their first meeting of the season. It was a high-scoring affair. The scoreboard read 98-89 in favor of Assumption, a game defined by space and offensive fireworks. It truly was an offensive shootout. The Owls lit it up, scoring 89 points. Multiple plays contributed, and the offense was clicking. But every high-scoring game has its trade-offs. The fast-paced and aggressive transitions left us vulnerable on defense. And this is where the gaps were. While we racked up a bunch of points, our defense couldn't keep up. They literally allowed 98 points, which meant the Assumption exploited mismatches and defensive lapses, and especially on the perimeter. It was a classic case of too much speed with not enough structure. What can we take away from that, though? The team showed that when the offense is firing, we can put up impressive numbers. However, though, the inability to slow down the opponent will ultimately cost us the game. So it was clear that if we wanted to turn the tide in a rematch, we need to tighten up our defensive rotations and maintain composure throughout the game. Fast forward to February 15th in Worcester, Mass. Coming off a 3-game win streak, there was a buzz around campus. An opportunity for the basketball team to avenge that tough loss from earlier in the year. The expectations were high for a defensive resurgence, given the lessons learned from the high-tempo matchup in January. So let's break it down. The rematch turned out to be a completely different battle. It was a complete low-scoring game, and it was really a defensive slugfest, which ended in Assumption edging us out in a 55-52 nail-biter. But there were some defensive improvements this time. Our defense came up to the forefront. We held Assumption to just 55 points, a dramatic reduction compared to January, where they scored 98 in the earlier game. The adjustments were clear: tighter rotations, better communication, and a more disciplined approach. However, when you shine at one point, you don't really shine in the other. The offense truly struggled this time around, but the silver lining on defense wasn't enough. Our offense sputtered, managing only 52 points and shot percentages that were down to 30% from the field and an eye-watering 2 for 17 from beyond the arc. Even though we dominated inside with 34 points in the paint, the outside game simply wasn't there today, and we needed it drastically. The game was a nail-biter. With the margin just 3 points, it all came down to the final possession. Despite some heroic efforts, missed opportunities in those last crucial seconds ultimately sealed the deal for us. Let's see what exactly happened this time around. Let's compare the numbers, the analytics of both games, right? Looking at both of these games, it's fascinating to see how different strategies play out. You know, game one in January, it was 98-89. It was high tempo. It was a lot of explosive plays on offense. And the issue was really defensive breakdowns that allowed the opponent to a little too much freedom. However, fast forward a month later, on the 15th, this past weekend, it was a closer game. It was 55-52. There was a lot more emphasis with Scott Burrell and his team's defense, but the only issue was we just couldn't capitalize on offense, missing key shots and falling short in crucial moments. Mind you, this is something that we know already, as Scott Burrell has said previous and numerous times, that they're a shooting team. They're a three-point shooting team. And when they're making their shots and making their threes, they can beat pretty much anybody. But when they're not, it doesn't look too great. And that's where the contrast is striking, right? While we corrected our defensive shortcomings in the rematch, our inability to generate consistent offensive rhythm ultimately costed them the game. So moving forward, what do these two very different matches tell us about the state of our men's basketball team? Well, for starters, it's a balancing act, right? We've seen that we can score and that we can defend, just not at the same time. The challenge moving forward is to merge these strengths, right? We need to maintain that newfound defensive intensity without sacrificing our offensive firepower. When the Owls, and if the Owls can eventually put together a complete game on offense and defense, if I'm any team in any 10, I'll be scared because personally, I don't think nobody can beat them when they're clicking on both sides of the ball. Third and lastly, and truthfully, what it basically all comes down to is late game composure. Losing by just 3 points shows that the game can pivot on a few key plays. So enhance on our execution in crunch time, whether through smarter decision making or improved play calling, could be the difference between a win and a loss. And that seems to be a trend in a couple of games that the Owls and Scottsboro have had this year, right? It was a couple of games we either lost by a little bit or we won by a little bit. And that's just, it all comes down to decision making, better shot selection, better execution, better defense. And we've seen them do this before. But with the Any-10 playoffs coming up, they need to put this together now. And there can't be really much room for error. But what's on the bright side, right? Let's look at the bright side at least. While these games against Assumption didn't yield the outcome we wanted, they've offered valuable lessons. The defense has improved tremendously, and there's no doubt our offense has the potential to light up the scoreboard when clicking. The path forward is clear. Find this balance and build on what we've learned. Thanks for joining in on this deep dive into our men's basketball matchup. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts. What adjustments do you think are most critical for the Owls? Drop your comments on the social media, and let's keep this conversation going. Let's move on to the big bad news that everybody's been waiting for. SCSU football and their coaching situation. Welcome back, Owl fans. Back from break. Welcome back to the Nest at Night. It's your host, Jalil Watson, and after discussing our basketball team's roller coaster of games this past weekend, it is time to address a seismic shift on the gridiron. Today, we're diving deep into the recent leadership changes in our football program, a subject that's generating a whole lot of buzz on campus and among the alumni as well as the Any-10 alike. In a decisive move, Terrence Jones, the newly hired athletic director, has decided that it's time for the university to part ways with 11-season-long head coach Tom Godek. Following a season that, despite some bright spots, ultimately did not meet our high expectations, this change marks the beginning of a new chapter, one that comes with both challenges but a lot of opportunity as the school embarks on a national search for a new head coach. Let's break down what happened, what this search really is going to entail, and what it all means for the future of our program. So, what exactly happened? Why all of a sudden now, and why fire Coach Godek? Well, Terrence Jones just felt like that. Apparently, it was decided that we parted ways with him. Coach Godek has been the head coach for the football team for 11 years, and when you look at the numbers, they're not good. Out of 11 seasons, he has only had a season where he went 4-6. There is no season above 500. So you could kind of see, I feel like the athletic department was just tired of giving him chances and trying to let him prove himself, right? But reports from inside of SCSU indicate that while there were moments of promise, like us beating Central, going down to Bryant, and losing a nail-biter to one of the top-ranked teams in Division II, it's hard, man. It's hard. And the overall trajectory of the team was not aligned with the long-term vision for excellence. The administration believes that a change in leadership will allow the program to reassess, to address persistent issues, and build a foundation for sustainable success, to create some discipline. The commitment by the administration, is truly there right now. The decision underscores the university's commitment to not only winning games, but also building a program that consistently competes at a higher level. I feel like what the athletic department is trying to do right now is bring back the football program's rich tradition of winning, of going to the Any-10 conference and winning it. We haven't seen an appearance since 2009, and that's some odd years right now. So let's get back to winning. Let's get back to competing for the Any-10 and going to the Division II playoffs and being a top competitor in Division II football. This sends a clear message that the Owls football program is evolving, right? It sends a message to the players, to the faculty, to the students that every aspect of the team is changing, from on-field performance to recruiting and overall culture. Will be re-examined moving forward. And let's talk about recruiting for a second. This is the first time in a long time that majority of the Owls recruits have committed, and we're almost at 20 plus. So it's looking bright in the offseason right now for the Owls. But let's continue. Let's talk about what happens next. The national search for the new head coach just launched this past weekend, and this is not just a hiring process. It's a strategic overhaul meant to usher in a new era of football at Southern. Let's identify some potential candidates. Robert Egeling, 3-year defensive coordinator here at Southern Connecticut State University. Alumni, played for the football program back in the day. He's right now what I believe the number one candidate is what I'm hearing from sources. He's somebody that's been here. He knows the players. He's Southern through and through, and he's tradition built. And during the season, during camp, when Coach Godek went out with a back injury, he was the acting head coach. And the team gravitated to his energy and his philosophy a lot more. So, to me at least, from what I'm hearing, that's the number one candidate. And there's perfect reason for this, right? You see, back in 2015 and 2014, when he was at NE10 foe, St. Anselm College, Egeling and his Hawks defense was nationally ranked in total takeaways, right? He was also instrumental in the development of an NE10 Rookie of the Year, as well as several NE10 All-Rookies and All-NE10 picks. Back in 2017, Coach Egeling was also serving as the secondary coach for the U.S. Football U18 select team that won the International Bowl over Team Canada. But he's been doing the same thing since he's been here at Southern. He has multiple All-NE10s, multiple All-Rookies, multiple All-American selections. So it's not too far-fetched to look at him as the new head coach for the Southern Connecticut State University Owls. Because let's not forget, he was also named Assistant Coach of the Year by the Gridiron Club of Greater Boston back in 2014. So Coach Egg isn't new to the coaching style, and he's definitely not new to building programs. So let's see if that's who we go with. But, and there's a slight but, there's been noise around the pool that that's not the only candidate that wants the job. Word on the street is Darren Edwards, the defensive coordinator and defensive line coach from Sacred Heart. He's also interested in the head coaching job here at Southern. You see, he began his 8th season at Sacred Heart this past year, and during his collegiate playing career, Edwards was a 4-year letter winning at Miles College in Fairfield, Alabama. A 4-year starter on the offensive line, and he was inducted into the Miles College Hall of Fame in 2010. He also had stints in the North American Football League for the Central Alabama Renegades, National Indoor Football League, as well as the Arena 2 League, before joining the coaching ranks. Edwards graduated from Miles College with a bachelor's degree in social studies education. Now, what has he done since being at Sacred Heart? This is now his 3rd season with the Pioneers and produced 6 All-NEC League selections, 1 All-American in Kevin Pepra, and 1 All-New England, Salem Horn. The Piles' passing defense led the NEC in back-to-back seasons 22 and 21, as well as Sacred Heart's defense led the NEC in 2021 in scoring, total defense, and sacks. Prior to that, though, he had 6 seasons with the Pioneers and was a part of the 2013 NEC championship team. Now, before Sacred Heart, he was at Columbia University for 6 years. With the Lions, he served as a defensive line coach and produced 9 All-Ivy League selections. Well, as we can see, both of these candidates are well-respected and have decorated resumes. But who will we decide to go with? Will it be one of these two? Or can it be somebody else that we don't even know about? Personally, I think we should go with Coach Egg to keep some consistency, keep some balance with the team, and keep our hopes alive, right? He's the one that's been here. He's the one the players have been gravitating to, and he's the acting interim head coach right now for spring ball. I'm not opposed to finding a whole new guy, but to find that right now, going into we're going into March, so we're about to start spring practice and everything. I just feel like if you don't find a guy by the start of March, you might as well give it to Coach Egg, give him a year or two to prove himself as a head coach, and see what he can do. See if he himself can revive the program, an alumni, right? Let's see if we keep it in the family, if we keep it within Southern alumni and some comfortability, can that work too? Or do we need a new face? Do we need somebody who hasn't been here before to revive our program? I don't know. But what we do know is no official list has been put out yet. Us on social media and in local sports circles hints at some high caliber names being in the mix. But let's talk about the interview process, right? Because it could be rigorous. Since we got some potential candidates and more to come, once they're officially identified, they will undergo a vigorous interview process. This isn't just about discussing X's and O's. It's about understanding their vision for the program. The committee will assess each candidate's ability to build a robust recruitment strategy, foster a winning culture, and connect with both players and fans. The interviews are expected to cover topics ranging from tactical philosophies to how they plan to integrate community and alumni engagement into the program. Reports from similar searches at other institutions reveal that these interviews often delve into how candidates have overcome adversity and implemented lasting changes in their previous roles. SCSU is looking for a coach who not only brings success on the field, but also resonates with the values and traditions of our university. And the athletic department and Terrence Jones are heavy on community involvement within this search, right? A notable aspect of the search is the involvement of the broader SCSU community, alumni, current players, even a selection of dedicated fans are being invited to provide input. This collaborative approach ensures that the new head coach isn't just a figurehead, but a true representative of the Owl spirits. The university is holding forums and town hall meetings to gather feedback, ensuring that the final decisions reflects the collective aspirations of the community. This inclusive process aims to build a coach-community relationship from the very start, fostering transparency and mutual trust. But let's be honest, right? A coaching change is pivotal for any team, any athletic program. It represents both a challenge and a tremendous opportunity. We can go into a new direction and a fresh perspective. A new head coach brings a new playbook, a new vision for how the team will compete. This could mean adjustments in training routines, new offensive or defensive schemes, and a refreshed approach to recruitment. History has shown that while a transition period can be rocky, it often paves the way for long-term success. For example, programs that have undergone similar changes at other universities have often seen a gradual but significant improvement in both performance and culture once the dust settles. Recruiting and player development is one of the key areas that will be impacted, right? A coach with a strong track record and a compelling vision can attract top talent from across the region and even nationally. The new coach is expected to enhance the recruitment process, identifying athletes who not only have raw talent, but also the character and work ethic to thrive our program. Additionally, there's hope that with a new leader, player development will receive a renewed focus. The aim is to create a system where every player is given the tools to succeed both on and off the field, which is crucial for building a program that can compete over a long haul. Next is a cultural shift in community engagement, right? The administration is not only looking for a coach who wins games, but also for a leader who can embody and enhance the culture of SCSU athletics and what it truly means to be an Owl. This means fostering an environment of discipline, accountability, and pride. The new head coach is expected to build strong relationships with alumni and the fans, reinforcing the sense of community that makes Southern football so special. Involving stakeholders in the search process is a testament to the university's commitment to a transparent and inclusive approach, one that values the input of everyone connected to the program and not just them. What are the short-term challenges and the long-term gains, right? Let's be honest, the transition might come with some growing pains. A change at the top often means a period of adjustment where routines are redefined and expectations are recalibrated. However, these challenges are necessary steps toward long-term gains. The ultimate overall goal is to create a football program that consistently competes for conference titles and makes an impact on a national stage. While we might see some bumps along the road initially, the search for a new head coach is a strategic investment in the future of our team. As we're coming to the end of the segment, one thing is surely clear. Change is on the horizon for Southern football. The decision to part ways with Coach Godek and the launch of national search for new leadership is a bold move that reflects the university's unwavering commitment to excellence and to its athletes. It's a challenging process, but one filled with promise and potential. I invite you, our dedicated listeners, to share your thoughts on what qualities you'd like to see in our next head coach. How can we best position our team for future success? Let's keep this conversation going on social media and on our online platforms. And let's wrap it up. That's the end of this episode. Thank you for joining me on a deep dive into the football program's leadership changes to the men's and women's basketball games this past season. And this has been Jalil Watson, and this is the Nest at Night, where we bring you the inside scoop on all things SCSU athletics. Until next time, stay passionate, stay involved, and as always, go Owls.